Hello everyone and welcome back, and I'm back, which means the channel's back. I'm sorry I stayed 3 rounds without making any videos, but I was very full with stuff to do, school stuff, personal stuff, a lot of stuff to do, and I didn't have time to make this video. But now I'm making the video, and I'm going to straight away get into it because we have 3 rounds to talk about. I'm going to start with round 7 and just speed through it. Bahia Goiás 1-1, São Paulo Vasco 4-2, América Mineiro and Fortaleza 2-1, Santos Palmeiras 0-0, which is quite impressive for Santos, not too impressive for Palmeiras. Grêmio Internacional 3-1, red card for Grêmio. Bragantino Atlético Paranaense 2-0 for Bragantino. Curitiba Atlético Mineiro 2-1 for Atlético Mineiro, red cards on both sides. Botafogo Fluminense 1-0 for Botafogo. Flamengo Corinthians 1-0 for Flamengo. And Cruzeiro Cuiabá 1-0 for Cuiabá. Then the next round. Fortaleza Vasco 2-0. Atlético Paranaense Grêmio 2-1 for Grêmio. Cuiabá Curitiba 1-1. Corinthians Fluminense 2-0 for Corinthians. Atlético Mineiro Palmeiras 1-1. Botafogo América Mineiro 2-0 for Botafogo. Cruzeiro Flamengo 1-1. São Paulo Goiás 2-1 for São Paulo. Internacional Bahia 2-0 for Internacional. Bragantino Santos 2-0 for Bragantino. Now, let's get to round number 9. Now, it's a proper round where I have the proper stuff, where the way we used to like it. So, let's start with it. The first match of the round was Fortaleza Bahia 0-0. So, not much to talk about. Then, after that, we had Cruzeiro Atlético Mineiro, one of the biggest classic matchups. Cruzeiro Atlético Mineiro, bad pitch, but in the end it was 1-0 for Atlético Mineiro with a goal from almost halfway line from Hulk with a mistake from Rafael Cabral. But every goalkeeper has a mistake, and every good player has these opportunities, and exquisite players like him are able to score these chances. Santos Internacional 1-1. This is Santos' last match having David Washington as their starting striker, because Marcos Leonardo came back from the Under-20s World Cup with not a very impressive run from Brazil. But I don't like talking about corruption, but I'm not even going to talk about it because it's not to do with what I talk about. So, Under-20 World Cup, Brazil got eliminated by Israel. I'm not going to talk anymore, but yeah. Grêmio São Paulo 2-1 for Grêmio. Grêmio are coming up the ranks. As I had said in the start of the season when I talked about the top 4 teams, I feel like Grêmio is not going to be a team that's going to stay in the bottom. The 4 teams that came up. I feel like Grêmio is going to be coming up and up and up. And this is what we're seeing happen right now. Grêmio is beating São Paulo. Grêmio has beaten Internacional. Grêmio has beaten Atlético Paranaense. They're just beating everyone. Palmeiras, of course, beat Curitiba. Atlético Paranaense beat Botafogo. Botafogo have lost 2 matches so far in this whole tournament. And it's been 2 matches that you'd say, seeing Botafogo's run still here, you would expect them to win. But they didn't. The 2 matches that you would expect them to win, they didn't win. So yeah, that's quite weird. América Mineiro, Corinthians, 2-0 for América Mineiro. Corinthians, they're having difficulty. They're having a lot of difficulty the start of the season. More than what you'd expect. You'd expect Santos to be there fighting where Corinthians is. You'd expect big teams like Santos. Santos is a big team historically, but they've not had a great season so far. You'd expect teams like Cruzeiro maybe to be fighting down there with Corinthians. But those teams are higher than Corinthians themselves, and they're not even close to fighting with what Corinthians is fighting. For example, they're 4 to 5 points difference between Cruzeiro and Corinthians and Santos. So you don't expect Corinthians, a team who's been spending this year, to be down here and fighting with these teams like Curitiba, Vasco, América, Goiás, Bahia, Cuiabá, Santos even, like I'm gonna be 100% honest. This year, Santos is fighting to not get relegated, but you wouldn't expect Corinthians to be fighting down here. But we'll talk about it more in depth afterwards. Fluminense, Bragantino 2-1 for Fluminense, which Fluminense have dialed down a bit from what people were calling it. People were like, "Oh my God, Fluminense is the best team in South America right now." But they're not. They're dialing down a little bit. They're falling a little bit behind. And when we look at the table, we'll see that that's happening. Goiás Cuiabá. It's a match of who's gonna be fighting. It's an important match for the future, for who's not gonna fall. And Cuiabá came in the lead with 1-0, and they kept that lead. And then Vasco, Flamengo. Flamengo are a better team than Vasco, but you would expect Vasco to be able to fight back. But no, Flamengo beat them 4-1. But now let's look at the standings. As I said, teams like Santos, you'd expect them to be down where they are right now, like fighting for relegation. They've not been playing well. They've not had great seasons so far. Santos, São Paulo, but São Paulo is actually climbing the ranks slowly but steadily. Whilst you can see that teams like Corinthians are suffering in the start of the season. Teams like Bragantino, who've been playing well recently, are suffering in the start of the season. And I don't think this is going to stay. I think this is going to change a lot. And a team that was struggling last season, which was Fortaleza, a team that was also struggling at the start last season, like Flamengo, are not struggling this time around, which is very important, of course, for them. But you can see a pattern arising. Teams like América Mineiro, who played well last season. América Mineiro could be even seen as the new Fortaleza from last season. They're playing badly at the start of the season. It's just not satisfactory for what they should be playing. For the level they played last season and everything, you don't expect them to be playing this low. And Corinthians are just doing Flamengo. They're not playing well within the domestic league. They've been eliminated from the Libertadores already before it's even over. They can only play for Sul-Americana if they want to play Sul-Americana. If I were Corinthians, I wouldn't even play Sul-Americana. It's not worth it for them. It's more worth it maybe focusing on the Copa do Brasil, which they're still in, and they have a fighting chance as they're playing against América Mineiro next round. Then staying in the Sul-Americana, which is not going to bring them as much money as these other leagues. And it's important for next year for them to qualify for Libertadores and for them to qualify for Copa do Brasil, all of that, which they haven't done yet, because they've not qualified for Copa do Brasil through Paulista, and they're not going to be playing Copa Paulista. It's something like that, which can get you another slot for the Copa do Brasil next year. And since it's changed, teams like Corinthians, Santos, São Paulo need to fight, get top 4 to be able to be playing next season Copa do Brasil, to be able to play Libertadores, which they need. Teams like São Paulo, Santos, Corinthians, even Palmeiras. Palmeiras wouldn't be able to stay stable if they don't win, if they don't get Libertadores every year, because they have contracts which need to be paid. And Corinthians have a team which are getting contracts similar to Palmeiras, similar to Flamengo, they have a strong team, Fluminense, and they can't be fighting to slow down. So in my honest opinion, Corinthians should just drop the Libertadores and should just drop Sul-Americana fully. Maybe they can qualify for the round of 16 in the Sul-Americana if they really want to, but I don't think it's worth it for them. I'm being 100% transparent here. A team like Santos shouldn't have done what they did. They dropped both Copa do Brasil and Sul-Americana, which is embarrassing. They shouldn't have done that. That was not a right choice, because financially they're needing it more. They need the little amounts. The little amounts are going to make a difference for Santos, for São Paulo. For these teams, they're needing the little amounts. For Cruzeiro, these teams would need the little amounts. But Corinthians wouldn't benefit from the little amounts. And they're not benefiting from playing in 3 cups at the same time. As you can see, their domestic league kind of playing right now isn't functioning. So maybe it's worth it dropping a few stuff. Also for teams like Fluminense, you can see how their play has really changed from the start of the season, where people were like, this is the best team in South America. And maybe it's not because they're not the same team. They are the same team. They have the same players. They have the same manager. First of all, I would like to be honest here. I don't think the manager is that good. But I think it's hitting the players. The tiredness that they're having. They're playing Libertadores, they're playing Sul-Americana, they're playing Copa do Brasil, they're playing Brasileirao, and I think they might have already been eliminated from. I can check real quick. I'm gonna check. They have been eliminated from Copa do Brasil, and maybe it's just maybe they have to look at maybe playing with a weaker team within the Libertadores, or playing with a switch, because the players are getting tired, and it's evident in their performance. And maybe they have dropped the Copa do Brasil, so maybe it's not worth it dropping something else. But is it worth it staying in so many tournaments that your players are getting tired, they're overworking, and you're falling in each tournament? You fall into Flamengo in the Copa do Brasil. Who said you're not going to fall? You went from beating River Plate and getting called by River Plate a miracle, by River Plate's manager, a miracle if they beat your team, to losing to them 2-0. So is it gotten to a point where your team can't function anymore? Your team doesn't have enough depth. Your team doesn't have... And Botafogo aren't experiencing this. This is why Botafogo is all the way at the top. Botafogo, they're only playing, and I say only, but they're for the standards of these other teams, they are only playing 2 tournaments, because they've been eliminated from the Copa do Brasil by Atlético Paranaense themselves, who beat them again. They've been eliminated on the Copa do Brasil like Fluminense, but when they've lost, it's been between these matches, between Copa do Brasil, between having short times between the matches. You can see that the Goiás game was two days after the Corinthians game. That's why they might have lost that there. The Atlético Paranaense game was like 2 days after the other Atlético Paranaense game. So they're getting tired, and these players are not used to getting this tired. So maybe they've made the right decision losing in the Copa do Brasil. Maybe they didn't do it on purpose, and I don't think a team would ever do that on purpose. But maybe it's the right choice. You also have to look in the brighter side. Like, if you look at teams like São Paulo might have a difficulty because they're still in all their tournaments. But as soon as the tournaments start becoming more and more tiring, they're going to end up falling in some. Copa do Brasil, now they're going to play against Palmeiras. Now, Sul-Americana, they're through into the next round. But who said that the next round's going to be easy? No one said that. And they can lose. If they lose a match, it's going to be dangerous because they're going to have to play fully. And they can't risk losing spots in the Brasileirão because, as I've said, they need slots for the next year's Copa do Brasil. And maybe that's why Corinthians shouldn't drop the Copa do Brasil, but maybe Libertadores Sul-Americana is worth it. Copa do Brasil, Corinthians needs to get through. Corinthians needs to get far. However, Sul-Americana, I don't know. It's not worth it for them, is it? The money there isn't very important. It's not going to bring them what they need. So, I don't know. That's just my opinion. It's always been my opinion on this channel. It's going to stay being my opinion on this channel because I think I need to give you guys my opinion, because otherwise you can just look at the information by yourself. And this is why I came here to talk about this video. This is why I made this video itself, because I was like, I was off a little bit, and I was like, maybe I'm not worth it for these people. Maybe they're not watching me because I just talk analytical. And I was like, it's not worth it me coming back. But then I realized I can talk opinion, and I'm going to start talking my opinion more. And I'm going to give suggestions to teams, and maybe teams like America, teams like Vasco, teams like Curitiba, teams like Goiás, teams like Corinthians, teams like Santos even. And even you can look up table. You can look at São Paulo, who have fallen 5 positions in 1 round. It's big, 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 big. So, yeah. But I hope you guys have enjoyed. Yeah. Have a nice week. And good